He had not been to Connecticut. So here we are, Trinity Branford, the Connecticut stop. So anyway, let's give a nice warm welcome, I think you'll enjoy this, to John S. Dixon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out on this afternoon to listen to some organ music, and in particular pieces that I have written over the last 30 years. And as Ron mentioned, I have a project to share my music in all 50 states. I know you're wondering which state we're doing today. It is state number 36. So I've got 36 states down and Tuesday I'll be in Providence, Rhode Island, so there's another one on this trip. So here's how I do my programs. You'll see that there are dotted lines between the sections on your program, and that's when I speak, so that I can tell you a little bit about what's coming up. That trumpet entrada was written a few years ago when I was playing in Florida at the church where a friend of mine is the minister of music, so that was written specially to open one of my programs, and everybody seemed to like it, so guess what? I played it quite a lot. So as you can tell from my accent, I did not grow up on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. I grew up in Essex, England. I know we have at least one other Englishman sitting in the audience today, which will become important in a little bit. So what I like to do is open up with 4 pieces that have some sort of connections tying my English background together with my life in America. Holy Manna is a really wonderful old American hymn. But the second piece, Welcome Voice, was written in a place called Epworth, Iowa in 1872 by a Methodist minister. And I was playing in Iowa, and I found this lovely tune, and I arranged it, and I premiered it in Iowa. And then I found that the Welsh have taken this tune as their own and given it a fancy Welsh name, Gwahoddiad. I've written it on the program for you. And if you are interested, when you go home at the end of this recital, if you put Gwahoddiad Royal Albert Hall into YouTube, that's what you need. You need that funny name and then Royal Albert Hall. You'll see a recording of 400 Welshmen singing this tune in Welsh. And let me tell you, it's knockout. I think I'm solely responsible for all the views of that video. It's really tremendous. So if you like this melody, go home and put Gwahoddiad Royal Albert Hall into YouTube. Now, I was saying this at my high school in England. Somebody here was watching a video from that program last summer, and I played this piece in my high school in England, and I said exactly what I've told you. I said, well, this was written in Iowa, and then the Welsh have sort of made it their own, but I don't think anybody knows it. And then at the end of the program, a gentleman came up to me and he said, well, I sing in a local choir, and whenever one of our members passes, this is the tune that we sing. So obviously it's a beautiful tune. I think it's really quite profound, and you might like to look up the text. Of course, you don't get words today, except when I'm speaking, but the text for this tune is really beautiful as well. So Westminster Abbey takes me back to my English roots. Henry Purcell, very famous English composer from the 18th century, wrote this tune, and I've made a little arrangement of it. And then Fanfare on America. I have to tell you that when I moved over here, I got very confused because everybody was singing My Country 'Tis of Thee to the tune that I grew up singing as my national anthem. So this fanfare, and to make matters worse, you folks over here went and called the tune America. So that's what's coming up. And it's a fanfare based on this dual-use tune. And my new friend Alex, if you see Alex stand to attention in the middle of it, it's because he's the Englishman, and it's, or did you become a citizen? I think you might have to stand up then and to attention. Well, that's okay. I don't think anybody's watching. So there we are. This is a sort of a mix of tunes that help connect my English roots with the life that I have created over here. So I better stop talking and do some playing. So it seems to work if you hold your applause until the end of this little grouping. I mean, organists love applause. You can applaud any time you like, except in the middle of a quiet piece. But really, it works well in these programs if you wait until I finished that. And then nobody feels embarrassed thinking, oh, should we applaud or not? Well, thank you very much. Now we come to the audience participation section of the program. I didn't even tell Ron this was going to happen. I'm trying this for the first time, and I'm going to ask for your help, and we'll see how it goes. And it's actually for the first of these 4 pieces, The Wellerman. This little grouping is Songs of the Sea. I felt that being here, close to a Long Island Sound, excuse me, with the rich seafaring history and tradition, that it would be nice to have a grouping of some musical pieces. So let's leave The Wellerman until the end. There are many sea shanties that I have collected over the years in different books. Wayfaring Stranger is not one that was a working song, but it is a beautiful melody, and so that is the second movement of this little grouping, the quiet movement. And then Shenandoah appears in shanty books. The tune has really circulated the world, and I live in Virginia, and somehow in Virginia we have a particular affinity for the tune of Shenandoah. So those 2 are pieces that I had already composed. And then for Ron, I have written 2 new pieces. The Liverpool Packet is an English folk tune, and the packet ships started in around the 1820s. They were regular services from Europe over here, and the sailing ships would come around the Cape and harbor in New York. So it really made me think that this was quite an interesting connection with where I'm playing today. It's also a very lively and happy tune, so I'm sure that will, Ron, I hope you enjoy hearing that. Now, The Wellerman. One of my piano students came to me and said, "Mr. Dixon, I want to learn to play The Wellerman." I'd never heard of this tune. But a postman in Glasgow named Nathan Evans made a recording and put it on YouTube, and it has over 300 million views. And it's a really great tune. So I started looking into this, and it comes from New Zealand. In the 1800s, early 1800s, 3 British brothers went down to Australia, and they established a whaling outpost in New Zealand, and their last name was Weller. So they would send a supply ship from Australia to New Zealand for the people who were doing the whaling, and so the people on the man on the sailing ship, on the supply ship, was known as the Wellerman. And so this song was composed for the laborers who were dealing with the whales as they were waiting for the Wellerman to come and bring sugar and tea and rum, of course, very important. So it's really a great tune. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to set up a rhythm for me, just a simple 4 beats. So it's just going to be like this. You can clap your hands or stamp your feet or bash your neighbor. No, don't bash your neighbor, right? It'd be like bum, 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 right? Just simple 1, 2, 3, 4. And often when people start, clapping along in musical pieces, they sort of get bored in the middle, and it just, how it just kind of drips away. This is quite a short piece. It's only 1.5 minutes, so I'm not asking you to be active for all that long. But what I have found, it's not a very sophisticated arrangement, but I really think that the organ playing this melody and the harmonies just gives a wonderful interpretation of this song. And what I'm hoping is that as I play the tune and the chorus, that it will feed back through you, and you will really get more excited, and the beat will become, I don't want you going faster, I don't want any fancy rhythms in there, just one. But I'm really interested to see if there's a sort of a feedback here that creates an energy through the music and through this wonderful instrument, through the organ. So it's the first time I've done it. This is a world premiere. And then you can tell me afterwards if you enjoyed it. And then you can go and tell your friends, oh, I was in the rhythm section at an organ recital on Sunday afternoon. And either they will be very jealous or they'll wonder if you're keeping up with your medication. I'm not sure which one that might be. So let's give the Weller Man a go. So I'll sit down and I'll try to conduct you to get the rhythm going. And let's see what happens. Thank you. We'll have to be honest with me. Did you enjoy The Weller Man? I really think that something special happens when the organ comes in and all those beautiful pipes start adding to the rhythm that you establish. So thank you very much. Good job you said yes, because I'm playing it on Tuesdays. So now we have a little collection of four more pieces. I'm calling it a Baroque collection only in the sense that a slow movement is followed by a fast movement, followed by a slow movement, followed by a fast movement, which was how the Baroque suites were organized, because courtiers were dancing to those movements. So they'd have a slow dance and then a fast one, slow, and then end with a jig, and everybody got tired out and had to go and sit down and have a drink. So that's actually the explanation of the structure of the Baroque suite. So I'm going to start with a very quiet aria. Some of you might think you recognize, or that it sounds similar to a piece you might know. Actually, one of the pieces is Bach's famous air on a G string. The other is the big late 1960s hit for Procol Harum called A Whiter Shade of Pale, if any of you remember A Whiter Shade of Pale. And just as an aside, the man who wrote that tune and sang about turning cartwheels on the floor, Gary Brooker was his name, he grew up in my town and went to the high school 3 miles away from my high school. That's about as close as I got to A Whiter Shade of Pale, but over 1,000 covers have been made of that tune. So it's obviously, I wish I had those royalties. Right, so after the aria, my hornpipe in D, which is actually my most widely distributed and most popular piece. I've had emails about this piece from Perth, Australia, and from Perth, Scotland. And one Monday morning, I got an emergency message from a lady in Norway who wanted to use this piece for her wedding recessional on Saturday. So, yes, I know you might well laugh, but thanks to the internet, I sent the PDF off, and she had the hornpipe in D in Norway for her wedding recessional. Then follows a quiet meditation that I wrote for a dear friend in Norfolk, Virginia, and the trumpet tune on Westminster New. Now, those of you who know your hymn tunes probably will be scratching your head saying, I don't think I know of a tune named Westminster New. It was actually written in about 1960 by the organist at a church in Wilmington, Delaware, and about the only known copy is in a picture frame hanging on the wall of the current organist. And when I went to play at that church, he took I wrote the Westminster Abbey piece for that performance, but Tony sent me a photograph of this piece of music and said, well, do you think you could make an arrangement on this tune? And oh my gosh, it is a really strong tune. I love the tune, and I've made a sort of a trumpet tune arrangement, and people are really enjoying it. So this tune, until January of this year, was hanging in a picture frame on a wall in Wilmington, Delaware. And I think that's one of the joys of what I've been doing. It's finding tunes and bringing them to life and sharing them with people and saying, well, what do you think about this? So now I'm going to play the Baroque collection. Thank you very much. This next piece starts out being one thing and turns into another. I had wanted to create a piece that I could use to show off just about any organ that I'm playing on. It's not really about me. I've written the music and I'm playing it on really lovely instruments. And Ron, I've really enjoyed the day that I've spent sitting here and playing. So I decided to write a piece that was a suite of variations that would give me a chance to try to show any audience what any instrument can do. So I needed a tune that everybody knows, and I think that everybody knows this tune. And I call it a fantasia on an Irish folk tune, so everybody over here immediately thinks of Danny Boy. But no, it's not a fantasia on Danny Boy. In fact, you know the tune that you're about to hear as a sea shanty because it was co-opted as a sea shanty in the mid-1800s. I'm not going to tell you any more about that. I just want to know if you know the tune. So I'll play that for you at the very beginning. That's your theme. And the first arrangement is an aria, because in my opinion, the world can never have too many arias. The aria lets me really show the beauty of the organ. So then the next movement is a duo, which, as the name suggests, is just two notes playing at any one time. Now, for this particular duo, I'm going to use what organists call 4-foot stops, which means that the longest pipe in the row is 4 feet long, instead of the normal row of organ pipes where the longest pipe is 8 feet long. And if you cut the length in half, the pitch goes up by an octave. So this is quite a charming sound, at least I think so. And there are two voices playing one against the other. So the next variation is an intermezzo. Now, you have to understand, and I'm acutely aware of this as a composer, composers start running out of names for what they're writing. And this piece is right in the middle, but it doesn't sound very sophisticated to say this piece is in this movement is in the middle. On the other hand, if you put it in Italian and call it an intermezzo, everybody thinks, wow, that must be special. So we have the very special intermezzo in the middle. And just to keep it a little more interesting for you, the meter is 5 beats per measure, 5/4 we call it. So you have 5 fingers. You can be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. See if I'm keeping good time. So that's the intermezzo. Then we have, I don't know why I did this, the solo for pedals. Well, I do know why I did it. People like to hear organists suffer by playing solos on pedals. It's just one of those things. And believe me, when the organ console moves out and everybody's watching my feet, that's great for the audience and not so great for me. So this is 55 seconds of terror for me, and I hope it doesn't turn into 55 seconds of terror for you. So let's just see how that goes. Then we have the finale, where I get all excited and pull out lots of stops to make a big noise. And if by this time you're wondering when on earth is this piece going to finish, the clue that it's coming to an end is that I put in a few notes of the most famous organ piece ever written, which would be Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata from the Toccata and Fugue in D minor. So I'm unashamed about that. I'm not copying. I'm paying homage to the greatest composer for this instrument. But when you hear that, you'll know we're in the home stretch, and it all gets a little bit frantic and crazy as we run down to the end. So that is the explanation of the Fantasia on an Irish folk tune. And I really do hope that you hear lots of interesting contrasts and color, and that you can leave here with a greater appreciation of what the organ can do. And if that's the case, then this piece will have achieved its goal. Thank you very much. For some reason, my mouth tends to go a bit dry in the middle of that pedal solo. Can't imagine why. I can't believe this. We're near the end of our time together this afternoon, and I just have one piece left to play. And actually, it's the piece that sort of got me started on this journey around the country. I wrote this piece back in the 1990s, but in 2010, the National Convention of the American Guild of Organists started in Washington, D.C. on July the 4th. And so I printed up a couple of thousand pieces of this piece and actually paid to put them in every welcome bag. So every organist took this piece home, and I started getting a lot of emails and making a lot of friends and writing a lot more music, which led to the sort of program that I've given you this afternoon. So I'm very grateful to this piece. And the other thing is everybody just seems to love hearing it. I mean, what's not to love hearing America the Beautiful? So even though I might have written a few flashier pieces for a conclusion to a program, as I travel around the country, it has finally sunk into my thick head that this is actually the best piece to use to close a program. And so that's what I'm going to play for you now, the postlude on America the Beautiful. So thank you all for being here. For me, it's been tremendous fun. I do hope you'll come through and enjoy the reception. It looks really spectacular. And I did have some of homemade pastries after church this morning, and I can give you a report. They are very good. So don't go out that way, come this way. I also, for those of you who are organists, or who have friends who are organists, there's a table in there. There's some music that's free. There's music that you can pick up and take with you. And there are some published books that I have to pay my publisher for them. So I offer them at a discounted price if you're interested. But the whole point of this is to share the music and to showcase what a wonderful instrument the church organ is, the pipe organ, and to make friends. And I've made an incredible number of friends on this project, and there are friendships to be made afterwards in the fellowship hall. So thank you very much. We'll finish with the postlude on America the Beautiful.